Um, Before January 6th of last year, we knew violence was coming, and we knew how far men like the ignorant fat ass Trump would go to try to cheat to win. This was adapted from the Black American Refugee by Tiffany Drayton, published by a book company called Viking, which was an imprint of Penguin Publishing Group, a division of Penguin Random House, and basically by Tiffany, which was done by Tiffany Drayton. And basically on January 6th of 2021, basically Tiffany had received a message from Carla, who was her best friend, and basically it contained a single question: How the fuck did you know? Washington D.C. was under siege by violent Klan insurrectionists who were directed by the then squatter Donald Trump to storm the Capitol to stop the certification of President Biden's rightful election win. Um, and Carla was shocked and confused as the attack unfolded, and she couldn't understand how basically Tiffany had warned her of the likelihood of such violence months earlier. Basically, they said they dated a man similar to Trump, and I know how far they would go to try to cheat the win. Basically, she spent her entire life prior to that day trying to wrestle freedom for herself and for her family, and from the grip of her abusers, her ex and the United States of America, after allowing herself to return to her homeland, Trinidad and Tobago, with her two kids on a quest to escape American racism. Their father enlisted in the U.S. court system to try to reclaim control of their life by falsely alleging he was that she was a kidnapper. Basically, he would taunt her by saying you want to go to jail. He taunted and threatened during conversations. She was horrified that he would go so far to rope her back into her abusive relationship, and won that, despite many attempts to fix and make it work, and engulfed her in constant pain. Now, this with and also went with disappointment and toxicity, but she had already received a message from the universe, and it had different plans for her. During the Carnival of 2020, her sister Nikki came bearing an unexpected message, and one that would promise her free. As the maxi snaked through the hills of Maribel, the cool breeze was both refreshing and invigorating. It was 4 a.m. on the February 24th, 2020, Carnival Monday morning, and she was sitting on the bus with her sister and her friend Katrina, and they were making a way to Port of Spain to partake um in Overt, and she imagined Carnival 2020 would be the best of her life. The sound of music from the big trucks beckoned as they made their way near the city center. As soon as they came close to a band filled with big trucks blasting soca, they had jumped out of the bus, and they were excited to be lost in the sea of revelers. The bass rattled through the body, awakening her spirit, and she sipped her drink as her body twisted and swayed in appreciation of the rhythm of the music. And people chipped, whined, and rolled their waists, and the cloak of respectability had been cast aside. Um, and basically, Tiffany turned to Nikki, and her face was contorted with emotion. She basically said, "The ancestors, they are here," she said, and tears were streaming down her face. They said, "We are going to be free this year." Nikki had cried out louder this time, "We are going to be free, and we already are," I said to Nikki before breaking from her group to whine with the random man. And Tiffany, it was so beautiful, Nikki said in a whisper later that day. "The message I got from the ancestors, we are going to be fucking free." People couldn't help but trip over the way the statement undermined the current moment of bliss. And why was their freedom a matter for the future when we had everything I could have dreamed of at that moment? And that pushed aside her pronouncement, not allowing the unease it had spurred to take over. Then early one Sunday morning, months later, while scrolling through Facebook, she watched the video of George Floyd murder, taking his last breath under the knee of a Minneapolis police officer, and she scrolled through the day's news headlines, and terror came crashing in like a rogue wave. Suddenly, she was back in America, plunged into an abyss of systemic racism, captured in heart-wrenching detail by the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, John Crawford, Michael Brown, and the endless names of black children and adults who have lost their lives to police brutality. As days passed and deaths from COVID-19 and from protests began to mount, it became even more clear to us abroad how precarious remaining in the U.S. would have been. If she had not returned to Trinidad with her family, her sister or her 3 kids, and her mother, who was a nurse for years before finally retiring, they could have been part of those statistics. And one said, "Mother, look, chocolate." My daughter's sweet voice came tumbling in like a lifeline, lifted out of the depths of America's darkness, and she extended her small brown hands toward the mother, covered in melted sticky gooiness, and I reached out to pull her in close, burying her face in the nape of her neck and her tiny body comforted. The tides turned, and everyone noticed the sun was still shining, and the breeze was still blowing, and we were safe. But not a day went by that we didn't celebrate that we had escaped. Um, and not too long after that, basically, she stumbled upon a song that a Trinidadian artist, Giselle Singer, released called "Billion Dollar Dream," and the sound of the artist's sweet voice posed questions that were the most pressing, um, in that moment. Will you stand up? Will you stand up? Will you stand up for the rights? Will you get up? Will you get up? But don't give up the fight. Um, Basically, people listened to that song, and basically Tiffany had listened to the song while on the beach and was overcome with gratitude and sadness for the sacrifices of those who came before us and died in bondage, with only the dream and hope that the next generation could experience true freedom. And for those whose lives were claimed or tormented by the evils of racism and other forms of abuse, and through her DNA and that of every black person in the Western Hemisphere, the African ancestors and their stories live on. It's a story of one survival. And however, as we scanned the moonlight ocean and the eyes fell upon her mother, daughter, and son on its sandy shores, exchanging whispers and giggles while pointing out at a colorful Christmas light strung up by a nearby tree, we realized that black life is not defined simply by survival but by magic. All of the forces of good, both seen and unseen, had conspired to put us all together and safely. But in that beautiful moment that night, we recognized that she was not alone in battle and they would never give up the fight. Um, basically, Tiffany's mother basically said, "The Lord is her light and her salvation. Whom shall I fear?" I heard my mom whisper, and technically to let you know there is no fucking God, so I don't even know why people keep praying to something that doesn't exist. Her mantra floated away into the universe. Finally, she understood the power of living on a black woman's prayer. Um, Now, after following her mother to the U.S. at a young age, one woman must come to terms with how systemic racism and trauma kept the American dream inaccessible to black people. Now, if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel, RBW King, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out. And if you want to support my work even further, you can go to the Patreon page on my About section, and you can donate a few bucks here and there just to further support the work. Yeah.